Kalorama, a recorded books high-bridge imprint, presents The Truce, Progressives, Centrists, and the Future of the Democratic Party by Hunter Walker and Luppe B. Luppen. Read by Mike Chamberlain. Author's Note. This book is based on over 2 years of reporting and conversations with key insiders at all levels of the Democratic Party, including past and possibly future presidential candidates, White House officials, senators, House members, local politicians, party officials, campaign consultants, and aides to all of those. The bulk of our reporting consisted of hundreds of hours of interviews with hundreds of sources and subjects. These conversations were conducted in person, over the phone, and, with the pandemic having coincided with much of our reporting time, over Zoom. Whenever someone is quoted, unless the text says otherwise, we are quoting from original reporting based on public statements or our own interview with that person. These conversations captured a major political party at a key turning point, facing an election that will decide whether the Democrats' victory in 2020 actually defeated the rise of Trump-fueled authoritarianism or merely managed to postpone it. Everyone we spoke to, whether they were upholding the party establishment or working against it, agreed that the stakes were immense. But despite controlling the White House and the Senate under the Biden administration, Democrats had not settled on who will next lead them or how anyone besides the octogenarian Biden can unite the party. Many political staffers, and even some of their bosses, were eager to share the truth as they see it. Some were also terrified of losing their livelihoods, and, as a result, reluctant to be candid on the record. As one source who'd worked for Kamala Harris put it, "Obviously, she's the vice president, and I need to continue to work in this industry." While we strove to push our sources to speak under their own names wherever possible, we granted requests for anonymity when we otherwise would not have been able to quote certain sources or obtain their most candid and honest assessments. Overall, we sought to learn as much as possible about the inner workings of the Democratic Party to help listeners understand where it might go next. Prologue. Joe Biden has always trusted his gut. In the year leading up to the 2016 election, a campaign that would transform both major parties and the American political system, Biden knew he could win, and that his longtime Senate and White House colleague Hillary Clinton could not. But President Barack Obama, the man he had served faithfully for 2 terms as vice president, saw things differently. He made sure Biden got that message. My sense was there was every effort to have the political people around Barack Obama communicate directly to Joe Biden that this was not a smart political thing to do, a former Biden advisor said. According to the advisor, Obama's people told Biden, "This isn't going to end well for you." The reasons for Obama's doubts were obvious. Despite their 2-term partnership, the pair were essentially political opposites. Biden had run for president twice, in 1988 and 2008, and lost. Obama, who had never run before, defeated Biden that second time after electrifying the nation with his promise of hope and change. While Obama was known for soaring rhetoric, Biden, who overcame a youthful stutter, was infamously prone to gaffes. Obama, who was in his 40s when he became the first black president, represented a new generation of leadership. Biden, already a senior citizen when the pair took office, was an old white man. Obama saw Hillary Clinton, his former Secretary of State, as a better bet than Biden. Clinton was only 5 years younger than Biden, and her husband was a former president. But she would have been something new for the party, the first woman in the White House, something many voters in the Democrats' base desperately wanted. At that time, Biden's life had been rocked by a fresh tragedy. In May 2015, as the race was taking shape, Biden's oldest son, Beau, died at the age of 46 after a battle with an aggressive form of brain cancer. Biden, who had already lost his first wife and a daughter, was known for his resilience, but this was the unimaginable. His pain was apparent in the brief public statement he issued on Beau's death. Biden called his son, quite simply, the finest man any of us have ever known. Biden was struggling, and Obama had his own political debts to pay. While Biden had washed out of that 2008 race early, Clinton had not. Obama's charismatic, pragmatic progressivism brought together a coalition fortified by unprecedented turnout from youth and people of color. It ran headlong into the wider, older, more institutional, and more conservative base of Clinton's support, a once dominant wing of the Democratic Party that she and her husband had long cultivated. Clinton battled Obama hard all the way into the summer, long after her practical pathways to the nomination had disappeared. She threatened to use delegate maneuvers and sheer will to take their battle all the way to the convention. The fight widened the gulf between the younger progressives in the party and its old guard. But as their feud started to turn truly toxic, Clinton backed down and gave Obama her support. Her endorsement that summer had been essential to unifying the party and delivering his victory. After winning the election, Obama chose to cool their rivalry by making Clinton Secretary of State. The overture brought stability to his first term, but deeper tensions inside the party remained. After 2 terms in office, Obama sought to return the favor by delivering a unified Democratic Party to Clinton. As it turned out, party unity wasn't something he could control. For his part, Biden had a gut feeling he could win. He also worried that Clinton, whom he liked well enough personally, could not forge a sufficiently strong bond with voters. To most observers, Clinton seemed solid. She came into the race in April 2015 with near universal name recognition from her time as a candidate, Secretary of State, and, before that, Senator from New York and First Lady. Clinton also had a pile of endorsements from the Democratic establishment and polls that firmly established her as the frontrunner by a huge margin. Months were ticking by. The first debate had already taken place. Biden's potential late entry into the race threatened to make things messy. Obama's team demanded Biden make an immediate decision. The announcement came abruptly on October 21st. Even some of Biden's top staffers only got a 15-minute warning. With his wife, Jill, and Obama by his side, Biden stepped out into the Rose Garden and declared he wouldn't run. Unfortunately, I believe we're out of time, the time necessary to mount a winning campaign for the nomination, Biden said. Clinton became Obama's chosen successor. The sting of that moment produced lingering resentment for some on Biden's team. It is fair to say, and I believe it, that Joe Biden has been more politically loyal to Barack Obama than Barack Obama has been politically loyal to Joe Biden, one Biden advisor said. When he reluctantly stepped to the sidelines, Biden became a passenger on an awful ride. He and Obama remained officially neutral during the extended primary campaign, but they watched with unease as Clinton's campaign once again faltered in the face of a surprisingly strong and divisive primary challenge from a progressive insurgent who appealed to young voters. Rather than the smooth and graceful Obama, however, Clinton found herself struggling to head off Bernie Sanders, a disheveled socialist senator from Vermont who espoused political revolution within the Democratic Party and promised to take down its elites. With her political pedigree, vast personal fortune, and high-powered allies, including corporate donors and the network of consultants, advocacy groups, and officials that had long benefited from their largesse, Clinton was the embodiment of the Big Dem establishment. It made her the perfect foil for Sanders. Voters who grew up with the frustrations of the financial crises, the growing wealth gap, and seemingly endless foreign wars that bloomed during the Bush and Obama years were drawn to Sanders's transformative politics. Biden feared Sanders's promises to voters were unrealistic. But, more importantly, he was terrified by what was happening on the other side of the aisle. Donald Trump ran away with the Republican primary by building a cult of personality, beating up his rivals, and bashing minority groups. A demagogic real estate tycoon and TV personality, Trump rode a wave of racist reaction against Obama's presidency to prominence and then dominance in the Republican world. Once he secured the GOP nomination, Trump mounted a campaign of unrestrained savageness against Clinton. Watching this fearsome right-wing momentum, Biden worried that both Sanders and Clinton were ill-suited to woo the independent-minded voters needed to ward off Trump. It took until the summer of 2016 for Clinton to secure the nomination. Along the way, a hack linked to Russian intelligence spilled the Democratic Party's internal communications into public view, revealing, in the eyes of Sanders supporters, a scandalous level of favoritism. The primary culminated with accusations of corruption and chaos at the party's convention. Faced with the threat of Trump, the Democrats were at war with one another. When Biden returned to the trail to help with the general election campaign, he found it wasn't just the kids and die-hard Sanders supporters who had issues with Clinton. Her campaign dispatched Biden to locations she seemed to view as an afterthought. Biden could sense they were losing people. Biden got sent to all the Scrantons and the Wisconsins and the Ohios, his senior advisor Greg Schultz recalled. We saw all the Democrats who were upset about Hillary. While the party relied on people of color and young people as its core base, white working-class voters were its vanguard in the swing states, the front line and the easiest group for the opposition to reach. Biden instinctually knew that the dissatisfaction fracturing the Obama coalition represented an existential threat to his party. Clinton, famously, neglected to visit Wisconsin herself in the 2016 campaign and wound up losing it to Donald Trump by the narrowest of margins. In the days before the election, Clinton's team had called Schultz to ask Biden to go and plant the flag there. Biden flew out to Madison on November 4, 2016, just 4 days before the election. He held a rally for young voters at a theater near the University of Wisconsin campus with Senator Russ Feingold. Then he took the senator out for ice cream, a quintessential Biden touch. Back on Air Force Two, the vice president's official jet, he delivered an ominous verdict for Schultz. It just didn't feel right, Biden said. No one had listened to him, and he had been underestimated by Obama, his longtime partner. Now, Biden was watching a slow-moving train wreck. If you're Biden, you've been in 1,000 events for your own presidency, or potential presidency, or someone else's, so you can actually judge a room, Schultz said. His gut is better than probably most polls, because he's just lived it. When the votes were counted, Biden's fears were confirmed. Disaffected Democrats who didn't show up to vote seemed to have put Trump over the top. A poll of 100,000 registered voters conducted right after the election found that more who leaned Democratic stayed home than Republicans by a margin that likely would have changed the outcome. Biden spent election night in 2016 with a small circle of advisors at the Naval Observatory, the vice president's official residence in Washington, D.C. As the bitter reality of Trump's victory over Clinton became increasingly apparent, the mood turned mournful. Around 1:30 in the morning, Biden picked up the phone, called the switchboard at the White House, and asked to speak with Obama. A source familiar with the call described their brief exchange. Biden had listened to the warnings from Obama's camp and stayed out of the race. But, apparently, Obama had not listened to the warnings from Biden. "Boss, I told you," Biden said to Obama. "People just don't like her." 4 years later, Biden would get the chance to do it his way. Once again, he was underestimated, and, once again, his political instincts proved strong. After nearly being counted out, Biden managed to surge past both Sanders and Trump to win the White House. Perhaps even more stunningly, as he took power, Biden managed to forge a truce with Sanders and the party's ascendant left flank. He achieved the party unity Obama could not bestow upon Clinton. Yet the story of Biden's uneasy peace with progressives, a pause in the unfinished Civil War of 2016, reveals the shakiness of the new Democratic alliance. While Biden managed to fend off Trump in 2020 and largely hold the line in 2022's midterms, he and his party are once again surrounded by doubts. The story of how the Democrats' warring factions came together behind Biden also reveals the existential questions the party faces going forward. Biden, the man who finally brought the party together, is in his 80s. Neither he nor Sanders, who remains the most prominent leader of the left, have identified a clear heir. While bridges have been built between left and center, sharp divisions remain in the Democratic ranks. The party continues to feud over whether to present a transformative, progressive message tuned to their base, or a moderate one designed to cater to independents and have a broader appeal. The question now is whether the current truce can hold. The Democratic Party is still struggling to find itself, and the future of the country is hanging in the balance. Chapter 1. Kalorama. Barack Obama was looking at his legacy. It was March 25, 2019. The former president surveyed the newly elected Democratic members of Congress face to face with the fractured, shaky future of the party he once led. The congressional freshmen crowded in front of him were deeply divided, feuding, and facing a dangerous enemy in the White House. The group was looking to Obama for answers. It was spring in Washington, and the bright cherry blossoms that dotted the nation's capital were in peak bloom. Obama met with the new class at a home of the Democratic Party's old guard. The reception was held at the mansion of Esther Coopersmith, a doyen of D.C. society for over 7 decades. Coopersmith's stately red brick mansion was located on S Street, nestled between the Irish ambassador's residence and the Laotian embassy. Billionaire Jeff Bezos maintained a residence just up the block. This was Kalorama, the elegant neighborhood at the heart of Washington's diplomatic community, a key node in its influence ecosystem. Unlike the many consulates, permanent missions, and organizations that dotted the leafy streets, Coopersmith's home never held an official role. Nevertheless, she had turned it into a regular gathering place for the city's most powerful, and a museum of her own significance. Coopersmith had met every modern U.S. president since Harry S. Truman, all, that is, except the one who then held office, Trump. Signed photographs hung alongside the sumptuous oil paintings, antique vases sat atop marble mantels and mahogany tabletops. Her home had all the traditional trappings of power. Though Coopersmith was a stalwart of the Democratic establishment, she had a bipartisan and international sense of hospitality. Over the years, her soirees have been attended by presidents, White House officials, a slew of foreign dignitaries, members of Congress, and even the infamous South Carolina segregationist Strom Thurmond. Coopersmith met everyone who was anyone in Washington, had probably invited them to her home more than once for an elegant luncheon or a relaxed dinner, and she had pictures to prove it hanging on the wall, alongside tickets for every presidential inauguration since 1961. Coopersmith, then in her 80s, had reportedly broken into politics as a young woman in 1952 when she managed the ill-fated presidential campaign of liberal Senator Estes Kefauver in Wisconsin. 2 years later, Coopersmith came to Capitol Hill for a staff job. She married a wealthy lawyer and built a reputation as a Democratic fundraiser. Coopersmith went on to spend several years as a diplomat and ambassador under Presidents Carter, Reagan, and Clinton. She also earned a reputation as a hostess nonpareil. A New York Times profile from 1987 described Coopersmith as one of the best at playing the Washington networking game, and noted she concedes that the real impetus for her party giving is that she enjoys having power at her dinner table. She was a major donor who paid for the privilege of mixing with politicians. The late Senator William Proxmire, a Wisconsin Democrat, described her to the paper as the Democratic political den mother of all fundraising. She really is, truly, a human catalyst, former Democratic House Speaker Nancy Pelosi once said at a birthday celebration for Coopersmith. She just brings people together. On this night, it was easy to see what Pelosi meant. The House freshmen stepped out of their cars in the mansion's trim forecourt, ascended the 2 white marble steps, strode between the tall cast-iron lamp-posts into Coopersmith's 28-room home, and crammed themselves into the living room with its lemon-colored walls, gold-framed mirrors, and candelabras. The centerpiece of the event wasn't Coopersmith or her lavish knickknacks, or even Pelosi, who had helped plan the evening. They were there to hear from Obama, the party's last great champion. Near the beginning of his remarks, which were obtained in detail, Obama assured the new House members he knew what they were up against. He also acknowledged that Democrats were split on how to confront the urgent threats posed by President Donald Trump and his increasingly militant MAGA movement. I know that there are debates right now taking place among the presidential candidates and among the congressional candidates and all of us who care about this country about how do we confront some pretty bad stuff, Obama said. How do we confront a resurgence of racist or misogynist attitudes? How do we confront things that we thought were no longer acceptable, but have been made acceptable again? It was only natural the party would turn to Obama for guidance. He was one of its most politically skilled and popular leaders. Obama's rise to the presidency captivated the country, and, after winning 2 terms, he left the White House with the approval of nearly 9 out of 10 Democrats. As he addressed the intimate gathering in 2019, Obama admitted it had become a different moment. The Republican Party is different, Obama said. I don't want people to feel as if we have to hearken back to what we did then in order to succeed now. Obama's conversation with the freshmen came on a particularly rough day for the party faithful. Shortly before Obama left office, the U.S. intelligence community released a report showing Moscow had pushed propaganda designed to help Trump defeat Hillary Clinton. The Kremlin campaign included the email hack that inflamed the division between Democrats. In the 2 years since Obama's exit, distraught liberals had put their faith in special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation into Russian intervention in the 2016 election, holding out hope he would bring Trump down. Mueller had delivered his final report to the Justice Department at the end of the previous week, and on the day before the dinner at Coopersmith's house, Attorney General William Barr released a brief letter summarizing it. Mueller's probe had already produced sweeping indictments of Russian officials and multiple convictions of key Trump allies. It had uncovered contacts between Trump's team and individuals linked to Russia, and it had documented myriad ways that Trump had tried to squash the investigation. However, Mueller had not found evidence that the Trump campaign conspired with the Russian government. Barr's letter, which was later revealed to be somewhat misleading, made clear that the Justice Department would not pursue charges against Trump. Like many Democrats, Obama and his team viewed Trump as a uniquely insidious foe, not merely a political adversary, but someone who might bring the whole American experiment to ruin. As Trump heedlessly broke norms in the White House, they considered what traditions they would be willing to set aside to rein him in. But even in this fevered climate, Obama made clear he hadn't lost his appetite for diplomacy. What I do believe is that the principle of reaching out beyond the people who completely agree with you is a good principle to follow, Obama said. You know, as I tell sometimes when I talk to young people, if you don't talk to folks who aren't woke, they'll never wake up. You've got to be able to have some conversation with folks who don't align with you on every issue. At this point, in March 2019, Obama had only recently come out of the political hibernation he had imposed on himself upon leaving office 2 years earlier. While Obama had largely left the public eye, he had stayed in Washington so that his daughters could finish school. Obama had once looked forward to a president's traditional retirement, working on the task of writing his memoirs and letting the next president do his, or preferably her, job. But then Donald Trump had beaten Clinton, and it complicated his plans. Obama initially resisted the entreaties to help his fellow Democrats fight Trump. He had made all his arguments during the 2016 campaign, doing his best to summon the better angels of Americans' nature against Trump's demagoguery. He's betting that if he scares enough people, he might just score enough votes to win this election. And that's another bet that Donald Trump will lose, Obama had thundered during the Democrats' convention in Philadelphia. And the reason he'll lose it is because he's selling the American people short. We're not a fragile people. We're not a frightful people. But it was Obama who had bet wrong. Obama's first public speech after leaving office, in April 2017, didn't once mention Trump's name. He largely avoided the midterm primaries. However, by the final months of the 2018 race, the former president had made appearances in multiple states and earned a reputation as a closer who could help secure victories for the Democrats. Standing at a lectern in late October, Obama didn't need to stake out a place on the spectrum between Clinton's moderate establishment politics and Sanders's transformative reimagining of the American system. Obama could simply root for the Democrat on the general election ballot and tout voting as the remedy for an ailing democracy. Coupled with deep anxiety and dissatisfaction with Trump's daily parade of scandals, the late campaign appearances from Obama and his wife Michelle, who may have been even more popular than he was at that point, helped the Democrats summon what was widely dubbed a blue wave that swept them into the majority in the House of Representatives. At the Coopersmith residence in Kalorama, Obama met the new Democrats he had helped bring to power and faced their questions. His answers provided a unique glimpse into his closely guarded thinking on many of the party's core issues. I think that this was the most candid I had ever seen Obama, because it was a safe space, California's Katie Hill, who had handily won a race in a competitive district in Los Angeles' northern suburbs, said in an interview for this book. Obama relished playing the party elder and cheerleader-in-chief. In front of the room alongside Pelosi, who had helped arrange the gathering and served as the master of ceremonies, he began the formal discussion of the evening by gushing to the new members, "I'm so proud of all of you. I think you are going to be outstanding, not just for the remainder of this Congress, but for a long time to come," Obama said. "And you have a really good example in the Speaker of the House," he continued. "Most of you know I love Nancy Pelosi. I mean, her husband Paul knows it. Michelle knows it. I mean, I just love Nancy. I don't lie about it." "I love you too," Pelosi shot back immediately. The warm banter between the two of them sent a wave of laughter rolling through the crowd. Many of us had met President Obama before at various campaign events and other fundraisers or whatever, but this was definitely the most intimate setting, in somebody's living room, said Hill. The night was Pelosi's as much as Obama's. At that time, the senior and most powerful elected Democrat in the nation, she had been in Congress since 1987, longer than some of the new members at the event had been alive. Pelosi had been Speaker once before during a stretch spanning the end of George W. Bush's presidency and Obama's first 2 years in office. It was a moment when the party had ridden the coattails of Obama's unique brand of celebrity to huge majorities in both houses of Congress. With that supermajority, Pelosi had wrestled the Affordable Care Act, Obama's signature health care bill, across the line. There is not a piece of legislation that I passed or an initiative that I was able to accomplish during the course of my presidency that didn't happen, in part, because of the
Sample complete. Ready to continue?